everybody. Thanks so much. Another edition of Will and Friends Live. This time I have our special guest and friend, Lawless. She's an actress, Chinese-American actress, and she's able to jump on and talk to us. Thanks so much for joining us, Megan.
Of course. Thank you for having me. This is fun to do while I'm just sitting at home in quarantine.
How's that been for you and your family, though?
It's been nice. I live on the East Coast and I go to school at UCLA, so it's nice. Yeah, go Bruins.
Go Bruins.
So it's nice to be home with my family. You know, I don't see them much during the school year, and they're happy to have me around. I'd say I light up the household a little bit. So
I'm sure they appreciate you being home now.
Yeah, it's nice to have our whole family back together until I go back to California.
Yeah. So tell us about that transition, because I know you were in the middle of school, friends, school, midterms, things like that, and then everyone having to shelter in place. Were there any thoughts of like staying there?
Oh my gosh, yeah. At first, I was trying to convince my parents to let me stay in California because, I mean, just the idea of going home in the middle of the semester like that with finals coming up, or the quarter with finals coming up, and leaving my friends. And a lot of my friends had told me they were actually staying at school. And I was like, I don't want to miss out. Like, I don't want to be home taking my finals by myself. Please let me stay. But then as things progressed and it became more serious and the quarantine was, you know, we really hunkered down, I was like, of course I should be at home with my family. And, you know, I don't want to be in LA by myself without them during these times. So I'm glad to be home.
That's good. That's good. And then how's the transition been with like taking school online and courses and midterms and finals and stuff like that? How's that?
Well, I mean, when we got turned to online, UCLA, it was week 8 of our 10-week quarter system. So finals were right around the corner and I was freaking out a little bit, I'll be honest. But I came home and I was doing it online, and you know, online learning is really great, and they've really made it easy for us. It's a little less interesting to not have my friends around, but you know, I can deal. And I actually study a lot more. There's less distractions. So I finished off strong. I finished the quarter really well. Got great grades, always.
That girl. I can only imagine, because it's like, I'm very social in that sense. Like, so I need to study with a group of people, prep, stay up the night before, and then like if you're by yourself with the computer, distractions galore with YouTube and social media and stuff like that.
With your phone sitting right there next to you, it's like, boy, it's a challenge. Or like you could just open up a new tab on your laptop and start watching a YouTube video, and before you know it, 30 minutes have gone by and you should have been studying.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I got the discipline.
That girl. Were there any my friends and I, we're geeky this way. We were playing Sudoku during class and seeing who could finish first, and the first person would finish, like, raise their paper and stuff like that, without being distracting. Are there any games that you guys like played or did in class? Or were you guys very diligent, studied, listened, and attentive in that way?
You know, maybe I'm a nerd, but like, I'm not interested. I don't have any fun games we really play. I usually sit in my lectures with a friend, so obviously we'll do a little or like we'll sit and like we'll have a few people sitting in front of us, and sometimes we'll just be like, bro, you really playing Candy Crush right now? You see that kid playing Candy Crush? Like, focus, dude. You know, we'll sometimes talk not bad, but about people in front of us like not paying attention, but other than that, nothing.
What are you studying right now at UCLA?
I'm an econ major and possible minor in accounting. I'm also studying Chinese. I want to be fluent. Nice. So I'm going to try to minor in that as well. Actually, hopefully that's my preferred minor. So then I'll have a degree in econ and a minor in Chinese. I can go off, and if I end up, you know, doing business more, I can use my Chinese skills. I'll be able to speak to my grandma. Even if I get in the entertainment industry, it's great to speak Chinese.
For sure.
Yeah,
it's a big market out there.
Yeah, it's great. And they also love Happas. They love half Asian people or just white people that can speak Chinese. I have a friend who's this beautiful blonde girl with blue eyes from Georgia that's from home. And she went to China and she went there for school, and then she got into the entertainment industry there, and they loved her because she is so
Speaks the language. She's like
Mandarin.
American.
Yeah, so she
Exotic in
knows
that way.
so much over there, and I'm like, maybe I should get into that, but first I need to learn Mandarin. So,
Yeah. No,
working on
that's so funny because I had a Mandarin minor, and I took 2 years, and then I did study abroad for 3 months, and that was transformative. So if you're able to have an opportunity for doing at least 3 months, if not 6 or a year, oh man, it was so cool just to learn more about my culture. I mean, my parents are from Hong Kong, so we studied abroad in Beijing, but just like learning about the culture, learning the language, able to hang out with other UC people as well. It was really fun.
Yeah. Oh, I would love to study abroad. And I've always thought as well about going to somewhere in China, just so I can hone in those skills. But I don't
Right
know.
now, though, it could be
Not now. And with everything going on, I don't know when that would happen.
Right.
I thought it'd be one of these summers, but we'll see.
Well, we might just put you in the transplant of like some predominantly Chinese area in the U.S. where you can
Exactly. I'll just go to where my grandma lives in Baldwin Park, and she can introduce me to her building. Yeah.
That's so funny. So talk to us, because you're a Chinese American actress, well known in The Hate U Give. Tell us a little bit about how you came up in the acting career, and how did that even start?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've always wanted to be a performer. I've been singing and dancing since, I was born. And I always did, theater and stuff like that. I actually did.
I'm going to interrupt you there. How young do you remember? Do your parents remember how young you were when you started doing theatrics or just singing stuff?
Okay, I mean, with every Disney movie that came out, so Pocahontas was like one of the first ones to come out after my birth in 2000, and Mulan. And I was just, when we're married, I was singing so much Reflection, all the songs from Pocahontas, and then Hannah Montana.
Oh, man.
I was the biggest fan, I'll tell you what. And I just wanted to be Hannah Montana. Legitimately, I wanted to be her. So at first I wanted to be a pop singer. And then when I started doing theater and stuff, I wanted to be on Broadway. And then I met someone, I did pageants. That was my outlet of like performing when I was young. So I met someone in pageants who started an acting career. And my mom and I were like, how did you do that? Can you tell us everything you did? We'll just follow it. And he was like, yeah, we moved to LA and got an agent, and she gave me great advice, and we just followed in the same footsteps. And
that's very nice. That's very nice of her to tell you that, or like sort of mentor you through that steps, because I can see some people trying to sabotage or tell you wrong information.
Yeah, like I know. Unfortunately, most people in the industry are not like that, actually.
Okay,
They're
good.
Really nice. The only time you have little scuffles is when you're with people that you are directly competing, whatever. I mean, I don't really care, but some girls are like, oh, you look exactly like me, and we're going out for the same roles. So let's not get too close, you know what I mean? Anyway, I started coming out to LA when I was 13. Me and my mom would come out here, rent an apartment for 6 months, and do Airbnb, and we would live here between 3 and 6 months every year since I was in the 7th grade. And when I was a junior in high school, I actually came out here myself because I had so much experience doing that. My parents trusted me, crazy enough, to move out here myself. So I lived in Pasadena in an apartment, and I had a roommate who I had met, who was also an actress, and she was a few years older than me, and we just lived in our apartment. I took the metro and the train around to my auditions, and
that must be nerve-wracking, especially LA traffic, and then the not reliable public transportation. Like you're trying to get there for an appointment, and
I was so grateful that my parents gave me that opportunity and have my entire career, dedicated so much time and money and sacrificed so much for me. So I'm very frugal because of that. And so when I came out, I was like, I'm not Ubering. I'm not spending any money. I'm going to make this the most economical I can. And then, you realize public transportation's not that great. So luckily in Pasadena, I was right near a metro stop, but sometimes I had to resort to Uber. But it was you know, I learned a lot living on my own. In the entertainment industry itself is, it's, you know, it's a business, and it's an industry, and it's crazy, and a lot of kids get involved in it, and you learn so much at a young age doing it. So it really helped me so much, all my experiences, you know, achieving this goal of mine. And it's what I wrote my college applications about. My main essay on the college app when I applied to UCLA and USC was about living on my own when I was 16, and like what I learned from it. So obviously great things. Crazy.
That's great. So you started around 13, and your mom, obviously your parents were committed in letting you do that and traveling and doing that every summer for a period of time. So
Yeah.
So was there like a goal behind it, or was it just more so experience, getting the experience, networking, or what was the thought process behind that?
Well, when I started, I thought I would just come to LA, audition a few times, and be on TV. Like, that's legitimately how I thought it would be. And, you know, you soon learn it's not that easy. Even the best actors and my great, like, fellow actors out here have been auditioning for years and years and years, and they're still not booking enough to make a substantial living. Luckily, I was young, so my parents were supporting me, but, you know, I would come out and I had an agent and a manager, and I would basically just audition. And it's back then they preferred in-person auditions. So that's why I had to travel to LA to be in front of the casting director when going out for these roles. And I would get close to so many roles. I've been close to so many, and it just hasn't worked out for me. But I have faith in time that, you know, maybe I'll make it big. I don't know. Some have worked out though.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've gone out on thousands of auditions. I probably go out twice a week for auditions, and I booked The Hate You Give, and I booked a few shows and a few cameos and other shows, some commercials, but in retrospect, you know, there's a lot of failures.
Sure.
So I would just go out and audition, plug away, and the more a casting director sees you, the better your odds are them liking you and remembering you. And that's what I do. Just audition.
Are there a lot of casting directors that you need to sort of like be in front of, schmooze with, get to know,
Right.
or is there just like a handful? And then like, if you're on their bad list, give up now because you're not going to get on.
Yeah, it's actually easy to burn your bridges. So when I actually first got to LA, my manager was like, I don't want to audition you yet, because when I started, I had no natural talent. I was actually not good at acting. I was good at singing and dancing, but not acting. And she was like, you're not ready to be in front of the casting directors in case, you know, they think suddenly you're a bad actor and don't want to see you again. But I mean, they'll probably forget about you after a year. But there are a lot of casting directors. Still, the industry you find is actually really small. You see the same people over and over. There's some projects that, you know, I haven't been in front of the casting director, probably because I don't fit parts in those series a lot. I mean, soap operas, like, I don't think I know any soap opera casting directors, or, you know, there's just some things I'm not right for that I might not go out for. But,
Sure.
you know,
Sure.
yeah, the industry in general, it's big but small at the same time.
How many people do you feel like you would compete against? Not compete against directly, but like are in the same boat as you, trying to get like a gig, whether it be a commercial or show or movie?
Right. Well, for my age group, the girls that I'd probably be auditioning for our auditions, usually they get thousands of submissions, probably between 2,000 and 4,000 maybe.
Wow.
And then they choose, well, it depends on how big the role is, obviously, but it's thousands of people. And then they narrow it down to who they want to see in the room to actually audition. And that's usually under 100 people. That's why it's really important to find good agents that fight to get you in the room. In terms of how many people I'm competing against at my auditions, like I said, it could, if it's a big series regular role, they're trying to cast for the CW, and they're going to see a lot of people. But some auditions, you know, they're only really seeing like 30 girls, and then at the callback, there's 7. And then when you meet the producers, it's like 3 girls, and then they choose the role. So,
wow. And how, and what time frame is this? Because it's like, it sounds like a lot to a little to another little, and then you make a decision.
It varies. Wow. You know, some things you auditioned for months ago, 3 months ago, maybe. And then this actually happened to me for a pretty big project. I auditioned for it originally, didn't hear back for literally 4 months, I think. And then they called me, my manager called me all of a sudden and was like, yeah, they're actually considering you for that lead. And they want you to retape this scene and send it in. And I was like, okay, sure. And then 2 days later, they're like, okay, can you fly to New York to test for this?
Wow.
And I was like, what? Like, I mean, it was slow and then fast. Usually if you're booking something for a TV show, you know, they film on a weekly basis. So they'll be like, we need you cast in 2 days. And the casting directors are rushing it. And then if it's for a big series regular or for a movie, they have more time. So it just depends. Varies.
Great. So you were talking about how whether it be your manager or a good manager would fight for you to get into that final, like the semifinals or the finals. What do you mean by that? Because you would just think like by sheer talent or by experience, you would just be able to get there. But you're saying that you need an agent that's able to bring you to the next level in that regard.
Definitely. I mean, when you're new to the industry, or even in my position a few years ago when you don't have many credits, even if you've seen a lot of casting directors, it's going to be hard to open some doors because a lot of casting directors know 10 girls that they're familiar with their work or that they've seen multiple times in the room and they can count on. And those are going to be the first 10 that they bring into the room, you know? And then from that point, it's just shuffling through those submissions, the thousands, and be like, she looks right for the role. You know, like, how do you make yourself stand out? And that's from your agent at the end of the day, or your manager. For me, it's my manager. He'll pitch me. That's what they call it. Usually they'll call casting and they'll be like, dude, this girl's great. You know, she has blah, 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 that you can count on her. She's tested for this. She's gotten callbacks on this big show. Like, she's really awesome. Or sometimes your manager will know and have a relationship with casting directors and they'll be like, you trust my judgment, right? Bring this girl in. Yeah. So finding a manager that really will fight for you and knows your strengths and can basically brand you and, you know, like, they're selling you. You have to sell yourself, but your manager also helps with that process. And it's really hard to get in the door if you don't have those people on your team.
That's crazy. Yeah. Because I would assume that if you're a casting director and you already have these 10 relationships, or you know, like their style and this and that and the other. It's like, why go through this whole process? I'll just pick one of the 10, right? I just need one person.
Yeah, no, definitely. And sometimes they do that. But, you know, sometimes they want fresh faces, or those 10 don't exactly match the character description.
Got it.
And so they'll be willing to see more. So
in the beginning, was it, because I'm curious, was it in some ways like trying to break even, make money? So doing whatever day, commercials, shows, all these different things? Or were you guys going big in the sense like, I want to get on a movie, I want to get on something that's going to be seen by a lot of people? What was the thought process there?
Well, when I started, you know, you audition for so much and it comes to a point where like, anything I can take. I would love to get experience anywhere I can. Even, you know, short films or student films can be so beneficial in just knowing what it's like to be on a set or like practicing your craft, you know? So at the beginning, I would take anything I can get. I still feel that way. But it's not really about money. It's just to get that experience and build up your resume. Now I have, you know, really strong team. I have some of the best agents and managers in LA, like, supporting me. And I have some experience to my name. So they mostly try to submit me for series regulars and reoccurring roles, you know, not as much like co-stars, one-liners. Those we usually don't audition for unless it's, you know, if it was like on the Game of Thrones or something and it was like a one-liner, like, okay, take me. But for the most part, you know, you have to be selective with your time. I do tend to spread myself super thin with school, and I do have a kind of whatever I can get mentality, and my managers have kind of brought me along to you deserve like series regulars or reoccurring, like good roles that you would love to work on. So that's all we're gonna, submit you for.
Two questions. I was just thinking about like your balance with school and being able to take on certain parts. Like you're saying,
Yeah.
like series regulars, and they have their schedules. I don't know what it's like. Maybe it's 8 to 5 or later in the day and later in the afternoon. How's that work? And then at the same time, what series would you love to be on?
Okay. I need to think about what series I would love to be on. I have a few thoughts, but I'm just gonna, think about it as I answer your other question. So in terms of school, I actually booked The Hate You Give and another show that actually never got released, but I filmed a season of it. And these I both booked my senior year of high school. As I was applying.
Wow.
Yes. So I applied to 14 different schools. So I was handling that submission process with school. And then I was trying to go to school, public high school. And then I was also filming these films and shows. So I had to be in Des Moines, Iowa for my show. And then The Hate You Give was filmed in Atlanta. And at my school, if I missed more than 14 consecutive days of class, I would get dropped. So every 2 weeks, we would tell the people in production of my projects, I have to go back to school on, October 11th, because that's day 14, or else I'm going to be dropped out of my high school. And they were like, okay, that's fine. So they fly me back. I'd attend school and then usually fly back. So that was.
So you just go for a day or basically whatever, like half a day. And then you're like, I'm here.
Yeah.
And then
I had
to back.
Exactly. But I had to talk to my teachers, obviously, because like if I just disappeared out of nowhere, they'd probably be quite concerned. So I told them, I'm filming the show. Can you help me out? I'm gonna do all my work, and they helped me a lot through that process. But it was crazy. Now, if that were to happen to me in college, I think it would be easier because I don't have to attend most of my classes, and maybe I could get notes from friends. But for midterms and finals, I can't miss that. So I would probably just tell production I have to be there. If I were to book like Stranger Things or something, then I would be like, okay, UCLA, maybe I can take this quarter off. Or maybe or if I booked an NBC pilot or a show that would be on for 3 years, I'd be like, you know what? I think I can afford dropping out of this.
Sure.
But yeah, balancing it, I mean, right now when I'm not working and it's just auditioning and then class, like I can handle that. It is a lot, especially when I get auditions during midterms and finals, but I find a way. In terms of actually working on a set, I cross that bridge when I get there.
Sure.
And usually my general rule, it was really hard at first to manage actually, because I said, your schedule as an actor just varies all the time. You never know when you're going to be free or not.
Right.
And it used to be like, if I book this project, that's when our family's taking a trip to Hawaii. So maybe we should cancel the trip, or Megan, you should stay home. And we used to have that mentality, like, what if I book this? Then I can't do that. So let's just like not do that other thing. And I realized that's not the way to live. Like, just do everything. You cross that bridge when you get there, because otherwise you just won't experience anything. That's why I decided to take my senior year at public school, because I wanted to experience prom and all that stuff. And
I was going to say, because I was like, don't a lot of people do homeschooling or take the year off? Because you're pretty aggressive in the shows that you were able to get and the things you were applying for.
Yeah, so when I was growing up, I was pretty much going to school for the first semester and then virtual school the second semester. But senior year, I was like, I want to be at school all year long. So I just took a leap and it became a challenge. But I would rather experience both of those things than have to give up one.
Yeah.
I'd rather just fight it out and figure it out. You know what I mean? And I have a great family and team and support system that we can make it work. So
wow. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think a lot of people struggle from a mental perspective or mentality perspective, saying like, oh, this is too hard to juggle. I'd rather not do it. I'd rather focus on one or something along those lines, where it's just like, I just rather not approach that because it's just too difficult?
Right.
Like you're saying, obviously your family, your team was able to support you along that journey. At the same time, you had this internal passion to what you want to do. So could you talk to us a little about how you were able to balance that out or have that harmony?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for me, my priority ever since I started acting has been acting because it's what I want to do, and school. And some people say you have to choose one or the other. I had a lot of actors tell me, "You're going to college? Like you're actually going to go and like keep pursuing acting?" And I was like, "Yeah, like I want to go to college. That's as much of a priority to me as acting is." And it's just something I want to experience. So I think, you know, it has been a big challenge, and my mom helps me out a lot with this, but I establish in advance what my priorities are. And right now it's school and acting. And it actually has become acting a little over school. So if I have an audition, I'll take that over class if I can manage. But, you know, those are my top priorities. And from that point on, if I involve myself too much on campus, unfortunately, or if I'm too social, you know, in the college experience, I will feel very stressed out and spread myself too thin. So at that point, you know, I make a list. Oh, I want to work out today. I want to do this. I want to go to this club meeting. I want to, you know, go to this sorority event. And then I try to check off what I can. But if it's starting to overwhelm me, my mom says, write down all your priorities and then cross out the ones you're willing to give up. So some days I'm like, you know what? I don't need to go to the gym today. Or, you know, I hung out with my friends all week. I feel fulfilled in terms of my social relationships with my friends. I don't have to go to this sorority party, or, you know what I mean? I'll just cross that off. I'd rather get my sleep. It's just things like that. And I used to not do this, and I tried to literally do whatever I could if I had time in the day too. And it's overwhelming. I just do everything at half best because I feel stressed out. And so it's something I've learned to work on. That's probably one of my biggest personal challenges, is just managing. I'm just too ambitious. So it's just in terms of prioritizing things and deciding what's the most important to me. Yeah.
Can you talk to us a little bit about your pursuit for college? Because one would think once you turned 18, might as well go full bore on going to acting, finding that career path in that regards, because you've got the experience already. Why not just go all in?
Oh, part of me really wanted to do that. But ever since I was little, I've always wanted to go to college. Always, always, always. And I've always been, you know, a really great student. I love school. I love studying. And so I never even thought about not going to school. It's just always a part of my plan. And then when I got into acting, obviously some people were like, you won't be able to manage school and acting. What if you book a role? And I was just like conflicted with that a bit. But I decided I'm going to school, and I'm going to school in LA, so that I can do both in the same city, Los Angeles. So go to UCLA and do my auditions. And where was I going with this?
Well, I was just saying, why school and not acting full time?
Sorry, I just got carried away.
All good, all good.
Yeah, so college, like I said, was just something I wanted to do, and I plan on continuing acting through college and after college. It's just, I love the arts, obviously. I love acting, but it's not all I love. I love other subjects. I've always loved school. My mom's a businesswoman, so I loved that business side of things. And I just like broadening, you know, the horizons, broadening my knowledge. And I really think college is beneficial for me and just the way that I want to develop as a person. I want to have, you know, the skills that I learned from school to be able to apply to the business side of things in acting, not just the acting, it's craft, but, you know, I can utilize these things in different parts of the industry, or who knows, maybe one day I'll want to become an entrepreneur or something. Yeah. I just think having that toolbox of knowledge, you know, that you learn in college is just very beneficial no matter what you're trying to do.
For sure. Can you talk a little bit about your influence of your parents? I know your mom, you've talked a lot about your mom, but in regards to your dad, I got to interact with him. He's such a cool guy. And
Yeah.
how they've been able to shape you and just the experiences and just who you are now.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. They, I am who I am because of them, obviously. I'm a perfect blend of both of them, really. So my mom is a Chinese immigrant, but she came here when she was 8, so she was really young, and she's Americanized, but she still, at her core, has Chinese, values, and I think that's really helped me because it's made me the driven person that I am, the ambitious person I am. I mean, the studious person I am, and I love, that side of my personality. My dad is an American dude from Kansas. He loves sports and he's the most gregarious, fun guy. I have his personality. Like when you meet us, I mean, we're peas in a pod, we just have the same humor and stuff. He's my homie, my bro. But also, he balances out my mom's driven personality with a more relaxed side of things. So whenever I'm stressed, I call my dad and I'm like, help me to feel better. And he'll remind me of, the Christian values I grew up on. He'll remind me of my priorities and he'll make me feel good and he'll ease my tension with humor. And then I'll talk to my mom when I, need a little kick and I'm like, let's get into gear, So they're the perfect balance. And yeah, I mean, I look like literally a mix of them. I act like a mix of them, and I'm glad to be home with them right now. They're my
That's
best.
awesome. That's really
I
cool.
call them every
That's
day
super
at
cool.
school. Yeah.
I mean, that's my hope. Like having 2 kids of my own, just hoping that like we can provide some type of positive influence in their lives where they're able to, not just only from a worldly perspective, but just from their character and everything like that. So that's really cool to see that imprint that they've had in your life.
I mean, they're everything to me, and I'm who I am, like I said, because of them.
There's so many good questions to go off of right now, and I know you're busy, so thank you so much for your time. Let's talk about the movie, The Hate You Give. Just you playing the role, taking on, and just the whole experience of that movie. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, it was an awesome experience. Obviously, it was the first large budget movie set I had been on, and or technically the second. The first one I was only on for 2 days. So The Hate You Give was the first time I was on set for multiple days working alongside the lead characters. And I mean, if you look at the cast of that film, it's a lot of big name people. And at first, when I found out I booked it, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be on screen with Amanda Stenberg and Sabrina Carpenter. Like, my mind's being blown, and I was so excited. And then I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be, the sore thumb because I'm just not as experienced as these famous people. Like, what do I do? And once I got on set, I mean, they're all people at the end of the day, and they are awesome. They made me feel at home through all of it. They helped me, whatever questions I had. So I was no longer nervous. They eased the tension. And I mean, filming that movie, I learned so much. Like I said, these actors I worked alongside with have been in the industry for so long. So they had a lot of knowledge to help me with, and to give me an advice. And also just watching them act, you're like, I just love how they approach their work. It's inspiring. But at the same time, being a part of this movie was a reminder that they're all just people. They're great people. They're humans like anyone else. Even if they have millions of followers on Instagram, they're they treat me the same, and they're just like normal people. So that was really awesome. And being on that set just reminded me, this is obviously what I want to do. I am very happy with the choice I've made, making this my career priority, and I want to do it even more. And actually, the most interesting thing of filming that movie was press. It was a politically charged movie, so we actually got tips and tricks about how to answer interview questions and
Yeah,
stuff.
I would imagine that
Yeah.
would be very like landmine-ish
Yeah.
questions, like not
I
wanting to answer incorrectly.
Oh my God. I was a little nervous, but growing up doing pageants, I actually got interviewed all the time as a child. So I was
Wow.
pretty good at interviewing and being under that stress. But
Hmm.
it was something that was so interesting to me. And I did a lot of press for that. I mean, I got a publicist. And so suddenly I had, oh, you have a photo shoot and interview with this magazine. Oh, you're supposed to attend this premiere and you have to answer these questions. Oh, like, oh, you have this interview on set and they're going to kind of coach you through any questions you have about how to answer these questions. And then you're going to be recorded by the studio. And it was just like crazy. I wasn't expecting all this publicity and PR to go into it, but it was really fun experience. I mean, I loved it. And I love that side of things. So it also opened me up to that.
How long is, because I've heard other actors talk about the press tour and how grueling it is because they go
Yeah.
internationally or throughout the US and it's
Yeah.
just long days, same questions. Some interviewers are really mean and go into like deep personal stuff when they shouldn't be. But like,
Right.
tell us about the press tour and like what's that like?
So ours was mild in comparison to like a Marvel movie or Walking Dead or Game of Thrones or anything like that. But it was still more than I had ever experienced. And for me, it was great. I mean, I loved it. Um, like you said earlier, there is some pressure behind it. But honestly, I mean, I'm not nervous at all right now talking to you, and I don't really get nervous over those things. So
Nice.
luckily, I didn't have too much of a problem with that. The hardest part is deciding like what events to go to and then getting like clammed up for it and you have to like fit it into your schedule. Other than that, it wasn't too bad. Going back to an old question you had, if I'd love to, or like what show I'd like to work on, I because I was just thinking about this when you were talking about the press tours. I would love to be in a Marvel movie or something of that sort because I'm like athletic and I've, you know, been involved in sports and working out since I was young. And I've always wanted to do something that was physical. Plus, those press tours, I mean, they're probably terrible once you start them, but like I'd like to experience it at least once. So, like, sign me up. I've only been to like France and England. So, like, if I could have that opportunity to jump around the globe, I would take
Yeah,
it.
sure, right? It's on their dollar and you get to explore and you get to
Yeah.
learn and dine and
Oh,
cuisine and all that stuff.
I could finally go to Asia and maybe meet some Chinese folk, Chinese fans. I can
Right, right,
probably
right.
do
Have you been able to interact with other like Asian or Chinese actors? Like I know Simu is the one who's going to be in the latest Marvel, like one of the
Oh
first Asian
yeah,
actors who's going to be the Marvel superhero.
I know oh my God, it's awesome. I actually met John Chu, who is the director of Crazy Rich Asians.
Oh, wait,
Um,
were you in it?
oh no, I'm not in it.
Oh
I
no.
want to be. That's another thing I'd love to be in. I met him. This is while I was doing press for The Hate You Give. So I got invited to the Deadlines Awards show kickoff party. And I didn't know whether to go, but obviously I was like, yeah, I'd love to. I have nothing in my schedule. And I went, and best decision I ever made because I met John Chu there. And he was so great. So my manager introduced me to him and he was so nice. He went to USC actually. No, I'm just kidding. It's fine. He's a
No, yeah, boo,
Trojan.
boo USC, boo USC.
Yeah, but I mentioned I went to UCLA and he was like, that's awesome that you're like getting your degree. And he really loved that. And we were talking about, being Chinese and all that stuff. And obviously, I loved Crazy Rich Asians and I just adored him. And he was so nice, down to earth guy. And what I loved is that at the end of our conversation, he was like, it was great meeting you, Megan. Like, I'm going to remember you. I love talking to you. And like, I was like, John Chu remembered my name. And then later that evening, he followed me on Instagram and I was like in my dorm room, like, on the floor, like, oh my God, John Chu just followed me on Instagram. So I just love the impact he's had on the industry as an Asian American. I mean, Crazy Rich Asians changed the game.
Mm.
And the new Mulan movie's coming out, like you said, the Marvel actress, and it's just so exciting. It's so exciting. It's a great time in the industry to be Asian or mixed. And I just love, I chose the right time to be an actor.
Yeah, the stars have aligned in that sense.
Yeah. Yeah. When I started, they were actually, I mean, this is all hypothetical, but they were like into redheads. So like casting was like really into the redhead look. And I was like, well, I
Interesting.
am not a redhead. But I mean, at that point, I wasn't a great actress. Now, I've honed on my skills and now they're into Asians. So it's perfect.
So we're going to see you more on that big screen very, very soon, huh?
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, that's great. Hey, have you, side question, have you been able to interact with like the Wong Fu production? So like Phil Wang, Wesley Chen, or anything like that?
I haven't, but I started watching a lot of their videos recently. And actually,
which one did you watch?
What was it called?
Single by 30?
There was one about a musician in Times Square who was playing guitar and this girl. Yeah. And then there was another one about, all the girls I've ever loved. I watched that one. Yeah. I don't know. I've seen a few of them. My Chinese friend actually introduced me to them. But I'm into them right now because my younger brother, who's also an actor, is trying to create a short film for a festival, like a young film festival thing, and I told him I'd help him, and I started watching those as kind of like inspiration.
Yeah,
they're great.
Yeah.
So no, I haven't. But
you should watch the one Single by 30 with Kina Grannis.
Okay. Really? Yes.
Yeah. I feel like you guys are very similar. She's a singer, she's an actress.
Yeah.
She had a big role with Harry Shum.
Harry Shum Jr. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love him. Glee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Megan, I've taken up a lot of your time, so I want to say thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. But before I let you go, what last parting advice you would give to those who are trying to pursue acting or getting into the industry? What would you say to them on that journey?
Yeah, I would say, if you've thought about acting, make sure it's what you want to do. And if you're really passionate about it and in it for the right reasons, go ham. You have to go full force and be dedicated to this craft if you really want to make it your career. But I think it's totally worth it if you're that passionate about it, like I am. So that would be my advice. Take risks. Don't be afraid to take risks. You have to take a lot of them in this industry, me moving to LA and such. But it'll hopefully pay off in the end. It will. Sorry,
here's another springboard question.
Yes.
I know like a lot of Asian parents are very much supportive of the arts because it's in some ways not going to be like financially, it's not going to be very lucrative, this, that, and the other, right? That's very funny that your mom in some ways was very supportive. But if there's someone out there who doesn't have that support system as you did, any recommendation there?
That's a good question. Like I said, I'm very passionate about being able to do both when it comes to like getting your education in that regard. So I feel like if you don't have the resources, unfortunately, before you leave the house at 18, maybe it's something you practice at home or you watch. There's so many like online courses and resources online these days. So you could take that time to, keep practicing and honing in on your skills, or taking drama at school, taking classes. And then once you leave the house, or, you do what I do and you still go to school and you do this on the side, maybe then it's something you could actually pursue and you could prove to your parents, like, I did both.
Yeah, totally.
Getting into acting didn't stop me from getting a great degree. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's amazing. Is there any online resource that you would recommend now for people? Is there like a Khan Academy of acting?
Okay, well, right now, actually, with quarantine, there's everyone's doing classes online. So you can go on Facebook to specific acting coaches. You can look up acting coaches in my area, if you're from the Southeast or from anywhere in California or New York. You'll find some, Chicago, and you can take online classes right now with your favorite acting coaches. There's also a lot of great books. Anthony Meindl Mendel does a great book. So you could look up his name. He was one of my acting coaches. But there's great books, and like I said, right now there's a lot of online classes. You also can subscribe to Actors Access, which is a website that gives you audition postings in your area, as well as like LA Casting if you're in LA, or Now Casting. There's a bunch of different types, but yeah, they can get you like little gigs, and you just submit yourself. You don't even need an agent.
Awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. So Megan, if people wanted to reach out to you, had more questions, or just wanted to follow you, where's the best place to have them do that?
So my Instagram is Megan P, as in Penny, my mom's name, and my middle name, Pele, Lawless, Lawless. And my Twitter is Megan Lawless. I also have a Facebook page. I think it'll come up if you just search my name. I actually don't know what the ad is. And yeah, that's it. Those are my socials.
Awesome. Megan, again, thank you so much for your time, taking out your busy schedule to jump on this Will and Friends Live and talking about your career and everything like that. Wish you the best. Hope you and your family stay safe.
You too. Thank you so much for having me. I actually love doing this, and I love talking about this. So don't even apologize about taking up my time.
That's awesome.
I wouldn't want to do anything else. Yeah.
Hopefully we can get you on another time one of these days, and hope you stay safe and take care.
You too. Take care, everyone. Quarantine. Yay, happy quarantine.
Happy quarantine. See you later.
Bye.